Tips from Trestle is brought to you by eMenu Choice Point of Sale, Wizox AI, and Benny Keith Foods. Welcome to Tips from Trestle, the Senior Living Food and Hospitality Podcast. This podcast explores the senior living industry with a unique focus on food, hospitality, and the community experience. I'm your host, Aaron Fish. My goal for this podcast: educate, inform, and inspire leaders in senior living. How? By bringing the resident and customer experience to the front of mind in our industry. We should bring the passionate spirit of food and hospitality to everything that we do and everyone we serve each and every day. So what are we waiting for? Let's get to it.
With me today on Tips from Trestle is Dawn Platt. Dawn is the National Director of Memory Care Programs for Discovery Senior Living, overseeing memory care programs across over 180 communities in 6 operating companies nationwide. An accomplished dementia care practitioner, coach, educator, and senior advocate, she is also the award-winning host of the weekly podcast, The Disappearing Mind. Dawn has been instrumental in advancing memory care standards, team member training, and quality care initiatives. Her innovative contributions include modified memory care programs, occupational profiling, skill set programs, and neuroplasticity therapeutic programming. A member of the National Alzheimer's Association Dementia Roundtable, Dawn frequently speaks at national conferences and hosts a virtual dementia support group, continuously striving to improve the lives of those living with dementia and their caregivers. Dawn, for being with me today.
Thank you, Aaron, for having me.
So we're here at the Florida Senior Living Annual Conference, and you presented yesterday on memory care. And your session was, why your memory care program isn't working, fixing the gaps you didn't know you had. So I want to get into that because from a food service standpoint, I always feel like memory care kind of gets put on the back burner, always kind of gets overlooked. And for me, it's kind of like, why did people that need the most get the least?
Absolutely.
So this is one of those topics that I need to get more educated about. And like, who else could I have to educate any better than you?
Thank you.
So let's get in. So when you think about memory care programming, what do you find are some of the most common hidden gaps that operators overlook?
Well, I think that we all have good intention. And I basically think that all memory care programs are good. But our industry has changed and dementia has changed. So we now see over 120 different types of dementia. We treat multiple mixed dementias in our industry, and our customer has changed.
Yeah.
So not only do we see mixed dementias, we see a different customer. So we see a younger customer. We often see a more educated customer. And we're seeing new types of dementia. So those programs that perhaps were written, 15, 18 years ago, really need to change some to keep the standards of our current customer. Just like in food service, in memory care, it's really changed. So we need to really look at the gaps in our program.
Yeah, I'm a big data guy. I think about the data in food service, all the different points, all the different things you can learn from that. I got to think in memory care, it's very similar. And so how can collecting the right kinds of data help you transform a memory care program in the way you deliver it?
It is exactly the same way. And you're speaking my language. There are a number of things that we look at quality, just like you do in food service, right? But in memory care, there's some things you really want to take a look at. So engagement. So we look at engagement. We often talk about programming or the calendar, but do we talk about what percentage of residents who reside in a particular memory care engage in meaningful activities? That's really important. And that's going to be key, because residents who have dementia who are engaged aren't doing other things. So that's number one. Number two, behaviors in general.
Yeah.
And what kind of behavioral expressions are you having? Now, when I talk about behaviors, I don't just talk about negative behaviors. Behaviors are an expression, right? And so are those escalating? Are they, behaviors that need to be addressed or not. So what are those behaviors looking like and how are they trending? And then family, so your family satisfaction surveys, your family concerns or complaints, those are key indicators to how we're educating, how we're communicating with families, and how effective we are. So those are just a number of things. The other thing and I'm very big on data analytics. So I measure move outs in less than 90 days. I measure 3 or more falls. I measure not only incidents, but types of incidents, right? Because they're key. And then I measure staff training compliance.
Yeah.
And those are going to tell a story. And that story is pretty much always going to be the same.
Yeah. The staff training piece for me is such a frustrating area because I always feel like it's come in, we get them trained as soon as they're new. Here's the handbook. Here's our programs. Here's what we do. And then it's good luck, right? There's not a lot of that follow-up training.
Yeah.
So when you look at the staff training component of that and the turnover piece as well, why is that such a critical metric when you think about memory care and its success?
For over a century, Benny Keith has been a trusted leader in the food service industry. As a broadline distributor, we offer an extensive selection of products, delivering to 21 states through 10 distribution centers. We can help you create a thriving culinary culture by pairing quality products with customized solutions that elevate your residents' dining experience. Our team of registered dietitians provide unmatched customer service by modifying menus, selecting recipes, ensuring regulatory compliance, and more. Quality, value, and service are at the heart of everything we do. Benny Keith Foods puts the care back in healthcare.
Well, memory care is such a customized. So it's a little bit different than our AL social and leisure model. It's really specialized. And in order for it to be impactful and effective, your team members are key to that. They deliver this program. So when they're engaged, when they're empowered, and when they're educated, they're going to take ownership. And so when you have staff that aren't or you haven't necessarily followed up, and it takes a long time to train staff. We learned that when we listened to just yesterday, the Ritz-Carlton talk about their customer service, right? It's the same thing. It's in little segments, micro trainings. When you have staff that buy in and own the product, your memory care program is going to be so much more effective.
Yeah. I mean, when you start looking at a memory care program, maybe you've got 180 communities, so you're constantly evaluating. What are some of the earliest warning signs that you might be looking for, or an operator could be looking for, that their program is not doing what they want to do, that they're failing their residents?
Yeah, well, it starts at the front door generally, right? Appropriate move-ins, appropriate assessment. But here's how I do it. We have routine calls with our divisional clinical leaders, and I set in these incredibly long presentations that we call Focus and Execute. What I learned from those is just an incredible picture. And so, the clinical teams measure a lot of things. So number one, they do measure incidents. So not only do we look at incidents, but we look at the types of incidents. And, are they trending up? Are they trending down? Are they, let's say, for instance, resident-to-resident altercation, which became a national issue in the fall of last year. And we were seeing it, right? And so I look at that. The other thing I look at is move-ins and move-outs. Have we transitioned well? Did we have a transition plan? Did we know the resident? Did we place them appropriately? I look at hospitalizations or falls with injury. And all of those will tell, and we go back to training compliance, assessment compliance. How many assessments are you behind? If you're not assessing, you're not ready to care plan effectively. So I'm really able to tell and go in and support the community based on just those few factors.
There's so many pieces of the puzzle. It goes back to that thing I said about data. There's so many data points. They all have a value. You hinted about families earlier, and like working with families. And so when you look at the family members, the loved ones, and engage with them, what are a few strategies that you've found successful to keep them informed, engaged in their loved one's journey with you?
Technology continues to drive changes in senior care, and that includes food service. E-Menu Choice is an award-winning point-of-service application for managing the dining function in senior living communities. This mobile, touchscreen-enabled software enhances the dining experience for residents while streamlining processes for staff. The flexibility and functionality of E-Menu Choice makes it an effective solution for any type of senior living environment, from independent and assisted living to skilled nursing facilities. It works for production kitchens or restaurant-style service with options for per meal or a la carte pricing, and accommodates a variety of payments, including bill to account, meal credits, and credit cards. Created by a senior care provider with more than a century of experience serving older adults, E-Menu Choice eliminates communication barriers between staff and residents while enabling person-centered choices and greater resident satisfaction. E-Menu Choice, transforming dining for senior living.
Well, that's a good question. Thank you for asking it personally as a practitioner and coach. You know, families are in a desperate place. It's our job as dementia experts, and that's what we are in senior living. We are key to caring for dementia. There is no other industry, right, that's going to do that. That's us. We have to be educators. Families don't come educated about what's happening with their diagnosis or what's going to happen next. So it's our job to be that educator. Families shouldn't be shocked at the next behavior or the next stage. We should prepare them. Now, with that, they grieve at every stage. Every stage is difficult. And the number one thing, Aaron, that families want is preservation of legacy.
Oh.
I don't want to lose mom, meaning I need to keep bits and pieces of her. So I think that communication is key. When I talk about that, we have a program called Just Checking In. And it really is a way that not only we talk about what did mom do today or this week, but any changes, or we talk about real-time difficulty with bathing and what we're doing about it. We may talk about an expression or a behavior or maybe a new friendship. We need to be open and honest with families, not just talk to them when there's an issue. And that's the differentiator, is that I may not know where you're taking me, but I know you're going to tell me about it before we get there or while we're in it. And so clear communication, not just care plan meetings,
Right.
but just checking in. I want you to know mom had a bad day today, but here's what we're doing. I want you to know mom had a good day today, and this is what she did. It builds that peace of mind and trust with families.
Yeah, that's so important. Look at it, working with families on the food side, and that is an important thing for them. But making that connection, not in between, like, the care planning has to be so critical.
Yes.
Is part of this. So when you had talked about memory care being a more personalized experience when it comes to engagement than like AL is. And so when you think about trying to do that personalization, how can we go about doing that when you have such variations in cognitive ability, resident routines are different? How can we be successful in accomplishing that?
Well, every memory care program that I've seen in the industry has a life story. So gathering that biographical information and make sure that your life story, again, is up to date, right? So if you're doing a life story on a Vietnam vet, which we're seeing a lot of in our memory cares versus maybe what we did 15 years ago, right? So make sure your life story is up to date and you're gathering who they are, you know, what they love, what they value, what their spirituality is, what their hobbies are, all of those things. That's key. And using that to create care, but also to create leisure or therapeutic programming, because it's our job to remind people of who they are and what they love when they no longer remember. So think about what I just said, how valuable that is, because that's who we are as memory care caregivers. I'm going to remind you, Aaron, of who you are, because you may forget it, how valuable that is. The second part of that I think is important is to use a cognitive tool. And in the United States, we usually see that through occupational therapists called palate testing. But there are very simple, I use a totally different cognitive evaluation tool called PALS, and it's written in a paragraph form, and it defines cognitive ability, processing function in a very simplistic way so that you can define the cognitive levels in your neighborhood. When you program around those two things, it changes and customizes and tailors your program. So even though I have standards across the nation, none of my calendars are the same in Oklahoma, Florida, or New York because people are individuals. And we have the ability to empower caregivers. They do understand that. We just have to define it for them.
Yeah. Again, it goes back to that training piece of letting them own the process. Yeah. So it's so important. When you think about that staff training again, what would you tell operators they need to be looking for as they start to build out that continuous training program?
Well, first, we need to change our training models. Okay. Hour and 2 hour in-services they're aged.
Yeah.
Okay. We have to do that with state regulations. We have to do that with mandated training, right? But when it comes to in-services and training or memory care, we need to really look at micro. We need to talk about these things every week or every month. So what I suggest and what I do is I have built a micro training library that's quite extensive. It's very small topics based on needs and requests, based on what's going on in the neighborhood. And over the years, I've built that. And it's like a little micro reference. It's like a little recipe book, right? Mary Jo is, let's say she's having sexual expressions, right? I have something for that. I have a small training on redirection. I have a small training on de-escalation, one that anybody could pull out and talk about at stand up or walking down the hall. So we need to come up with that library and put it together, right?
Yeah.
The lead caregiver could pull that and look, let's see what the recommendations are. And there's tons of material out there, but, talk about 3 points to getting someone to take a shower if they're resistant. We talk about this long enough and pretty soon it's your care team.
Yeah.
They know these things. They're empowered. They're very, very smart. Let them be your resource. Let them talk about how they got Mary Jo to take the shower, right? And then share it, write it down, have it there in your little book. And that's the empowerment memory care.
So many times you hear about people, they spend all this time and effort building these training programs. And then you look over on the shelf and there's the book. And when the last time that's been cracked open, well, we got it out at last month's in service, right? And so the concept of micro learning and micro training is, I think, key. Not just in memory care, across the board, but I can definitely see how all of the little things that a caregiver needs to understand, like 3 points is perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Carla in the neighborhood, she can get anybody to do anything. Let Carla share her ideas, her thoughts, and in a 5-minute conversation with the rest of the team.
Yeah.
Powerful.
So, Dawn, as we wrap up here, when someone's listening to this, they're going to think, okay, I've got a lot of really good stuff. Dawn has told us all these things we should be doing, but I really need to find a starting point. So what would you say as maybe 2 or 3 practical first steps leaders should take to really start to realign their program's mission, vision, and really to be able to start setting some goals for themselves?
Well, I think you should really take a hard look at your memory care product and program and make sure that you're casting vision. As a leader, you have to model it. Nobody's going to follow you if you don't model it and lead it. So you have to define a few points of your program, make sure they're fresh, go and freshen them, and begin to talk about it, own it in the neighborhood, the team, empower them. I say you're the shine team. You're the shine team. And shine is something to be very, very proud of. You are that. And so I empower them. I think that casting that vision. And the other thing, Erin, that's really important is take small steps. So deal with your biggest obstacles to getting to where you want to go one at a time. So maybe it's care and you want to Be flexible in your shower schedule. One thing at a time, work on it, write it down, talk about it, celebrate it, and overcome it. And then pick another area. Maybe it's your programming or family communication. Talk about it every day until you overcome it. It's the small steps. But if you're the ED in your building and you can't sell me your memory care product, your team is going to be lacking because you're the leader, you're the modeler, and you're the one that is going to set the stage for your product and your program. You should be proud of no matter if you're small, you have a lot to give. The mom and pops, you have a lot to give people with dementia every day, and you're making a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Dawn, this has been a great conversation. I'd love for you to share with the listeners how they can get your podcast.
Okay.
We didn't even touch on that.
That's okay.
So let's let them know where they can find it so they can hear a lot more of your wisdom and how they can reach you if they want to ask more questions.
Absolutely. So my name is Dawn Platt. I'm the National Director of Memory Care at Discovery Senior Living. My email is dplatt@discoverymgt.com. My podcast is called The Disappearing Mind. It's really about the journey of dementia. There are a lot of resources there on the website at disappearingmind.com. Reach out, ask questions. I am an advocate for all things memory care. So, I'm here to support. I love families and caregivers. And so you can listen to my podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can also find it on YouTube, Facebook, on all media platforms. And thank you for having me today.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So there it is, everybody. Another one in the books. Thanks again for tuning in. Please follow, like, and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to follow us on social media at Tips from Trestle. You can also learn more about the work I do by following me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and even TikTok. And be sure to check out Trestle Hospitality Concepts at www.trestlehospitalityconcepts.com. I'm your host, Aaron Fish, and this has been another episode of Tips from Trestle.